What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Day Trading Show. In today's episode, we've got Akil Stokes in the building. We talk about a lot of valuable stuff. We're going to touch on athletics and how the characteristics of athletes can translate into great traders. We talk about what winning traders are made of. And really, we talk about what losing traders do that keep them in this self-sabotaging circle. So sit back and enjoy the episode. I know you guys are going to love it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Day Trading Show. We've got a special guest. Akil, my brother from Philly, is here to talk to us, not just about trading, but we're going to touch on a couple of different topics, kind of circled around athletics. Before we started the recording, Akil and I were catching up. We have a lot of similarities, Akil. It's kind of funny. Track fans, soccer fans, but you know what? And I'm sure you would relate to this because you're on Twitter. There's a lot of traders that are soccer fans, or maybe is it soccer fans that are traders? You know what I'm saying?
That's 100% true.
It is. And I think that your background, you've got a lot of experience, not just coaching. You were just telling me the coaches have been together for 16 years, you said, and the school is Millersville University. For everybody that doesn't know, it's a college in Pennsylvania. So that's 16 years there that you've been working with the same guys, coaching people. And now how long have you been actively, calling yourself a trader, Akil?
Calling myself a trader, in hindsight, that may change a little bit. So I've been trading, I would say 16 years. So I kind of went in, I started trading or getting into trading and investing as I went into grad school. That's the same time I started coaching. Now I would say calling myself a trader, let's say like 12 years, because what I was doing before probably wasn't trading, kind of more like reckless gambling.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to that. I think we all could relate to that. So you have a lot of experience, and not, like I said, not just coaching, but in active markets. And I think that people who are new to trading sometimes look to find like things in real life that they can draw parallels to. And I find that for me, and James and I have talked about this before, it always seems to come back to athletics. There's so many powerful skills that you learn when you're working with a team in a sport specifically. So let's start with the coaching. I have a couple of questions about like your experience in coaching, because not only are you an athletic coach, but you're also a trading coach like James and I. What motivated you to want to get into coaching athletics at the same time as you began trading? Like, what was the thought in grad school? You weren't busy enough learning how to trade and being in grad school, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, to be honest with you, though, I never had any intentions of coaching. Our head coach at the time, he just kept trying to get me into it. I'm like, no, it's not for me. Then he hit me with the money. He said, hey, I've got this grad position open for you. We'll pay for it, pay for this amount of your grad school. I said, you know what? I'll get into it. So I started for the money. It's funny, trading the same way. I started trading just because I wanted to make money, right? That's, I think that's why a lot of us start into it. But as I got into it, I actually fell in love with it. I love coaching. I love the developmental part of it. We're all sports nerds, so it keeps me a part of that atmosphere. And I love the part that I get to chase championships always, but I also get to change people's lives at a very important moment. So I look at myself as that guide where I'm getting college kids, and that's an age where you can go many different ways. And I kind of think that I play a very important role in helping them develop from kids to adults and pushing them forward to whatever their dreams are in life.
Dude, I love that. Great answer. That was so good. Like that.
But I started for the money.
that is, but it's so true, because it's like, I think that we underestimate how influential coaches are on us in the moment. Like when you're the kid, when you were running, you don't realize how long the things and lessons that you learn from those coaches are going to be with you. Like I had a situation once where, like, the short story is I was trying to just throw up a paper cup away during a soccer match, and I missed the trash can and I didn't go pick it up. And my coach turned around and screamed at me basically for not going and picking it up before I was getting subbed in. And the lesson that he taught me is like, if you're going to do one thing sloppy, you're going to do everything sloppy. You got to do everything to your best ability. Go pick up what can't you pick? You know what I mean? So it was like that lesson still carries with me today. I still tell that story today. So coaches can be so impactful. So now translating that into the trading coaching, was that the same kind of when, I'm sure it was years later when you got into coaching traders, then do you say, okay, I've already seen the impact that I can make to people, whether it's kids, adults, whatever, in that moment on the track. Now I want to try to make it here on the computer. Is that the kind of same process to go into it with?
Yeah, I did it. And it took me a while because, and I think many of us are like this, when, trading is so hard. And even when you've become consistently profitable, there's a part of us that, because we've heard so many war stories of people that have been successful and then they just they fall off a cliff and lose it all. So even after becoming a consistently profitable trader, there was still that little bit of doubt, like, am I really consistently profitable? Because it can end any moment now. I think that's also the thing that keeps us motivated, is where we work so hard because we fear kind of losing it. But I didn't want to coach traders either, because I felt, who am I to be in a position to tell people what to do? I'm still, rather young in my journey. I think 2 or 3 years in of being a good trader at the time. Who am I to help others? And I kind of jumped into it. And then, just like you mentioned, I saw the impact that I was having. And now it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding just seeing people and helping them, and seeing the dividends that pay off as people go out and get funded, people quit jobs, people, develop retirement accounts. It's so cool. It's so rewarding.
So let me get into you with some other direct questions. These are going to be good because that sets us up perfect. And of course, I want to talk about the funded thing. James and I have some experience with that, and I want to hear your thoughts on that. When you hear people over all of your years, because you've got over about 2.5 times as much time as me, how do you deal with, but like, what do you say to the people that say trading or managing money, investing, it's a scam, you're never going to make money, you've got to just buy and hold, that old school mentality? What's your 15-year perspective say on that? I'm curious.
Well, I try to be as polite as possible.
Right. See, I knew you were going to say that, bro. Because at first I'm like, 15 years, I'd be like, all right, this is where we're at. And that's where we're at. You know what I'm saying? Right.
The younger me, shut that fuck, right? You know what I'm talking about. Now, I try to be a little bit more calm and see things the right way. And, I don't look at people as just being dumb. And there are a lot of dumb people out there. There are people that are really dumb, really stupid. They're assholes, whatever. But a lot of people are uninformed. A lot of people, they only know what they've heard or what they're told. They don't actually know the reality of the situation. And I think if you're someone that thinks that, you have to be undereducated, because yes, there are scams out there. Like, there are people out there trying to take money and sell you. Yeah. And in anything, right? There's I get an email every day from the African prince in Nigeria that wants to be, right. You get that every day, but there's a massive difference between scammy people and scammy industries, right? Trading, investing is not scammy at all. It's the centerpiece of our economy, literally, for forever, basically. Right. Yeah. So you have to be able to separate that too. There are scammy people, but the industry isn't scammy at all. It can be quite lucrative if you know what you're doing.
It's a great answer. I think people get frustrated. Like, James, your experience, James, we talk about it all the time. There's these guys on Instagram that James tells me about that turned him off. This is interesting. It turned him away from wanting to ever trade NASDAQ, because these guys would go on social media in a scammy way. NASDAQ killers, NASDAQ, that's what they call themselves. And like, that turned him away. But then now, James, tell him, what was one of the last trades you were looking at this morning?
Yeah, it was NASDAQ and the Dow Jones. So yeah, it's 100%. Like, the industry isn't scammy. It's the people in the industry that create that unfortunate perspective.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And the problem is we have to break that, because people come in with this bad taste, and then they assume everyone's a scam artist, because the first 3 people they run into on the internet are scam artists. And then we have to kind of reprogram them, break down that wall of defense. And that's very hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So with markets, how they are now, with us being, I would call it like an interesting spot. I thought over the weekend, this is where we get questioning. Are we at a bottom? Are we getting a bounce? Like, where are we? So it's not like there's clear sentiment to send us hardcore lower, almost because as of filming this last week, we had that news with the Fed and everything. So it's almost at a stalemate, in my opinion. So I'm kind of trying to figure out, are we going higher? Is this the bottom in? And I know you do a lot of Forex trading, but do you have any input towards, I'm sure you follow general markets and you're aware of everything. So what do you think is going on right now? Like, where do we go from here? Maybe?
Man, I have no idea. I'm just like you. I don't want to call it confused, but we're in unknown territory. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before, at least in my experience. And I had the fortunate experience of, I traded through, what was it called? The Great Recession back in 2000, was it 10, 9, that area?
Yep.
We kind of went through COVID as well. That first recession prepared me to take advantage of COVID and understand what was happening with the markets. This is a little bit different because, you look at, we're aggressively hiking rates, and we're getting less aggressive now. We just had the second straight quarter of GDP drop, and, you're supposed to see a recession after that, but we don't really have a job problem. We have people, we're making jobs, but people don't want to work. So it's not like people can't work. And it's like, everything's all over the place. So,
Yeah.
you know, what I've been thinking in my mind, it's really a wait and see. You know, we're looking at economic data to come out. We're looking at the direction we're going to go in. You know, I have no idea. I am playing it week by week, fundamental announcements,
right.
fundamental
Absolutely.
announcement. This is the first time I've seen something like this in
very,
my career.
Very strange. You're right. It's hard to look back in history at any point and find an environment that you can say, oh, this is that, and that's what's going to happen next. And I think that's what's making everybody a little bit more nervous to be convinced. You just don't, you know, I feel like last time and in the past when we've seen bear markets, just when we say bear markets, like I'm talking S&P 500, you know, the general stock market pulling back, CNBC starts running those headlines about so-and-so's calling a bottom, so-and-so's buying, you know what I mean? And then you start to see, okay, like for example, I remember in I want to say it was 19 when Bitcoin dropped really low and Paul Tudor Jones bought it at 12K and it was all over CNBC and then it ripped to 70. And he, of course, was trading it. So I'm sure he took some profits on that trade. But just seeing those headlines of those big names, it's not happening as often right now. I'm not seeing anything like that. I'm seeing some people that I respect saying it's going to get worse. And like you made a great point, Akil, the jobs are the only thing, in my opinion, kind of holding this whole little stick up. If we had 6% unemployment, people would be losing their minds. They'd be like, oh, this all makes sense. Gas is up, homes. I just heard a story. A dude had a 3-bedroom house he bought for $700,000 and sold it in California, 1.9 million in 2 years. Isn't that crazy? So it's like so many things are in an interesting place that are like, it's like accelerating. It's almost like it's stepping on the gas pedal. So on the trading side, you said you're looking at it week to week. Have you changed the markets that you're trading over the last couple of months as this has happened, maybe since the start of the year, or what are you most focused on now?
I have not. So I stick to a very similar portfolio and it's kind of a mix of everything. So I have exposure to all the major currencies and whatnot.
Sure.
I have shifted with, you know, how much I'm looking at a fundamental analysis as part of my analysis as well. And give a good idea, you know, a couple of weeks ago, you know, when the US was coming out and hawkish with interest rate hikes, right? We're hiking, aggressive. The yen was out there saying, we're not doing anything. We have zero interest. We're looking at that blend and saying, okay, from a technical standpoint, we're seeing this, right? Dollar yen looks like a buy from the technical standpoint. From a fundamental standpoint, if you go back to economics 101, right? You know, you got the Fed hiking rates, you've got Bank of Japan saying we're not doing anything, right? That lines up perfectly with a bullish dollar and a bearish Japanese yen. So that's aligning exactly what I see with the charts. So I'm trying to shoot for more of these longer, I call them home run trades, right? Usually I'm in and out pretty quickly. But every once in a while, when you can get fundamental analysis lining up with the technicals, you can take those home run shots and look to get those big wins. And going back to your kind of conversation earlier, right? I think that's the biggest difference between the scammers and people like us. The scammers are always shooting for the big wins and always capturing these massive profits. I think we'd all agree what we're probably doing is we're kind of chipping. Every once in a while, boom, big one, and then chipping. And I think that's what real trading actually looks like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think James could speak on that too. Like I would say out of everybody that I know that I'm trading with actively, James has a really high win rate. But even on, like, I wake up sometimes because he's trading the London session. He's in and out of these trades, taking his win so fast. He'll hit his 1R. James, I'll let you speak on it, but like killing it like that.
Yeah, I just find that it works better for me. Like as you say, chipping away. I don't really have these massive like 10R moves. I mean, I'm not gonna, like, you see the guys on, as you mentioned, the scammy guys on Instagram and that. I just don't have it. But as you say, the small wins all add up, and those small wins become big wins when you got more capital to trade with, right?
Yeah, there was a guy I remember when I was like learning how to trade. It's a YouTube channel that does make really good videos. And this dude was talking, he was like a British guy talking as if he worked at a bank. He had a suit on. I don't know who he is, so I'm just judging on appearance. He's looked like, but he made a really good point. He was like, I don't need 60 pips. I need 6 pips. I just need more money so I can make my 6 pips worth your 6. Yeah, like that's the biggest thing. One of my most popular videos, I called it the power of 20 pips. People watched it because I made it clickbaity to make it look like they were getting a strategy. And all I did was tell them that you don't need 200, you need 20 consistently, and then you need more money behind it. I think you do see a lot of people though coming to that realization, but you have to, for some lessons, it takes a couple of times of getting burned to then get to the point of understanding, which leads me to my next question, Akil. For you now, again, with so much experience in the market, what are you doing to study and push yourself forward? Because you've probably read every trading book. I know you have your own podcast now with Jason, which is the Trader Coffee Hour, Trader Coffee Break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the idea from where I'm like coming from here is like, you must have consumed every podcast to then create your own. You've read every book to then feel like you can create your own and speak. Like you must have so much content that you've consumed. What are you still studying?
The basics. The interesting thing about my career is I would say this, right? I went from trying to do the fancy stuff, right? When I was learning how to trade, you fall in love with all the stuff you see on YouTube and you're throwing up all this fancy stuff. I went from trying to do like all this crazy fancy stuff. And then as I got better as a trader, I've kind of gone back to the classics, the basics, like hey, understand what a candlestick looks like, understand a trend and support and resistance, right? Simple classic pattern formations, triangles, breakouts, flags, stuff like that. Understanding the indicators that I use better as well, meaning I don't need to understand a million different indicators, but if I have 2 or 3 that I like, understanding the nuances of, hey, how can I use this in a different way? Or how can I use this to give me a clearer signal? So I go back to a lot of books that I read when I was younger that I was kind of reading, just looking for the strategy. And I read them again with more experience. And what I notice is that I understand parts that I overlooked before, parts that I thought were maybe too simple or boring or weren't, or maybe I just didn't understand it because I wasn't knowledgeable enough. I'm rereading them now and getting a lot of information. So that is something that helps. I can tell you what, and I'm sure you deal with this too, just working with traders on a regular basis is massive for your growth because we're consistently rehashing what's important. We're consistently reviewing charts, explaining what we're seeing, helping other people out, explaining how to help with their problems. And that's a learning experience. And some of the questions we get are rather difficult and it takes kind of a high amount of brain work to kind of get that answer. So
no, but you're right. Pushing yourself to share it.
Yep.
I feel like for me, I got into coaching like you kind of in the same way. Like I was just sharing it because I felt like by me posting on Instagram, and I was actually really on Snapchat when I first, this was like 2016. I felt like that made me obligated to tell those people that were watching it every day what I was like showing them every day, that process. And that's what then I think gave me some type of validation to say like, okay, he's at least consistent. At least I'm seeing consistency there. You know what I mean? But what I was really doing was posting because I felt like I was teaching myself. It's like almost selfish, but then it's rewarding because you bring value to other people. So it's a beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think. Okay, James, sorry.
I wanted to ask Akil, do you think now that you've been teaching, right, trading, teaching traders for so long, do you think that teaching helps you in your own trading as well? And if so, how?
Oh yeah, definitely. Same things Austin said. It just, it kind of retouches on all those lessons. So, right, we spoke about earlier, my biggest fear as a trader is becoming unsuccessful. Like one day I wake up and I just lose it. And it's very easy to become lazy the more you've done it because you get mechanical, you get robotic. It's kind of like a relationship, right? The longer you're in a relationship, you stop doing some of the small things.
We're still human, bro. We're with everything.
I know. Yeah. I can. My wife's out of the house right now, so I can speak proudly about this.
Let me turn it down so Riley doesn't hear.
But it's by teaching others, we're consistently holding ourselves accountable. We are, we all want to make mistakes. I'm sure we've all been there where there's stuff we're not supposed to do, but we're like, no one's watching, let's do it. When you're teaching others, you hold yourself to this level where you have to be professional, you have to be consistent. And that's what it takes to be a consistently profitable trader. So I think it helps massively because it holds us accountable. It holds us to a standard, knowing that there are more eyes on us than if we were just trading by ourselves.
Sure. That term consistently profitable trader is it's a buzzword. I agree with what you said at the beginning of the episode, like almost putting air quotes around it because the word consistency is very hard to put in trading because it's like you said, it could slip away and your strategy could become terrible the next day. You have to be constantly adapting. And there's a guy I follow a lot. His name's Sang Lucci. He has his YouTube series called Adapt or Die. And I think that you over 15 years probably have a lot of experience to speak on. So how have you adapted your trading over time? And like, when do you, maybe this is a better question instead of that, because that's easy to answer. For people that are listening, how should they, or when will they know if they need to make some type of adaptation in their strategy or their approach? Like, what are some red flags to say something's got to change or you're going to blow out?
See, that's tough because it's going to take experience. It takes a lot of kind of review and journaling, right? The stuff that a lot of people won't do. A lot of people just want to trade and take trades and move on. You've got to review. You got to go back through the chart, say, how did this trade do? Could I have done anything better? Was there a reason I got stopped out, or was it just, a normal stop out? How are the market conditions changing, right? I know one of the big ones that affected me was when we went to really went from like high volatility markets to low volatility markets. I started getting eaten alive. And I noticed that I was making all the right calls. They just weren't moving like to my target level because the volatility had been sucked out of the market. So I had to make adjustments and kind of switch how I took targets, get a little bit more conservative with them. But to go back to your question, it was, how do you know that
the red flags,
the red flags?
Yeah. Because like for me, I think of the first thing, it's like, if you're losing consistently, you don't necessarily want to bail on the strategy, because like I back tested my strategy and I'll see 12 losses in a row on some of these pairs. So you have to be willing to understand what your strategy is going to do in terms of drawdown. Right. But like beyond that, are there other ways where you can say, look, maybe I need to go find a new market? Or is it just the losses? Is that the only real flag?
So the losses is the main real flag. So like you said, if you back test your strategy, you have an idea of kind of what your extremes are. What is a normal bad drawdown. And once you get past that level, that's when you got to start scratching your head and looking for answers. And then you go back and review. First thing I do whenever I review is I want to say, hey, is this extended drawdown because of me, or is it just the market? Meaning, if it's me, am I making any mistakes that I'm causing it, or is it just
what's off your routine? Or are you stressed out with other things? Right. So documenting and journaling on that stuff as you trade is good too, because then you can go back and see that. Yeah. Great point.
Correct. Yeah. Or is it just my strategy? And if it's your strategy and you got to go back to the drawing board, in most cases, I don't think you need to ditch your strategy 100%, because if you've tested it correctly, you should see how it performs over different market conditions. But you may need to make a tweak. Maybe you may need to become a little bit more aggressive with your entry, a little bit more conservative. Maybe the stop loss needs to be stretched out. Maybe your targets need to be increased or decreased, right? You got to find these things and make these small little tweaks, but I don't necessarily think you need an overhaul of your entire strategy. At least I haven't experienced that.
No, but I agree 100%. And I feel like I can even speak on that more, because we have a trade tracker that we're using now, which is separate from like my FX book or anything. It's just a spreadsheet where I'm putting in the data, but I'm using it because I trade these different entry signals. We have the names of the entries I trade, but also I'm tracking how far those trades go in terms of max risk reward. So seeing the last 17 trades that I've taken, I could even pull it up right now and tell you, looking at this trade tracker, it actually has made me see over the last, I would say 2 months, because that's how long I've been working on this account here. Yeah. So I have 18 trades. The max risk reward of these trades on average is about 0.9, just about 1R. So comparing that to a previous trade tracker from maybe 2 years ago, 2020, where I was catching 2-3R on an average trade. So knowing that I'm not getting as much risk reward, and I think James is probably a piece will agree with me on this, like taking more profits because of the documentation that I'm doing, showing me that these are not moving the same. That's been a big, big help too. Because then it's like you said, take profits aggressively. Do you need to even know why? No, it could be whatever is going on in the macro condition, but the data doesn't lie, So now when you are looking to do the journaling and the documentation, 15 years of trading, are you still doing that every day? Keep it real with us.
I am. But it's not necessarily the same way I used to. So, I used to have, my trading coach always told me, keep a diary, keep a journal, whatnot. So I had a blog like going way back. And this is what got me kind of into coaching in the first place, where I just would write stuff about how bad I am and all the mistakes I was right. And people loved it. They're like, yeah, dude, I'm bad too. But
it's so true, bro. People don't want to hear about your wins. They want you to suck so they feel less bad about themselves sucking.
What's interesting though is that Tom, one of the guys, also
same thing,
does the same thing. He does the blogs too.
Yep.
See? So I did that, and it was just a personal blog. I didn't, I felt too manly to like write in a journal at the time. So I still take notes I still review, I still take notes. A lot of I don't do the blog posts anymore, but I'll do stuff like the podcast. So the podcast, I'm just like you, is kind of like my outlet where I can vent. I can talk about different things I'm experiencing. And I have those episodes. So if I ever need to kind of review and fall back and kind of see how I was feeling at a certain time, boom, I can turn it on and listen to it instead of kind of taking whatever many minutes to actually write it down and whatnot.
Sure.
So still doing it just in a different way, not as detailed.
Way.
Yeah, not as detailed as I was before, because in the past, I didn't really know what I was doing. So I'm paying attention to everything and writing down every little detail. At this moment, I kind of know what I should be paying attention to, what I shouldn't be paying attention to. So I kind of focus on those small things.
And that's a great point too, that I think both you and James, and I would say it's something I'm always still working on, probably more than James even thinks about it, because both of you right there in your daily actions, I can see, know, and feel like I have my edge. I know what I'm good at, and I don't really care what other people are doing. And for me, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, Akil, like when you're sharing content on social media, it can be quick where you get roped into a scrolling rabbit hole and you're looking at somebody's page and it's so unhealthy. Like we could probably have a whole podcast about why that's bad for us, but you guys, I think, do a great job at blocking out that, not even it's the haters, it's just the noise. Any advice to someone who's listening on how to clean out their following? Like go on Instagram, go on Twitter, and look at who you're following. How would you guys go about cleaning that out? James, you want to go first? Like how, because I know you've done a really good job at that. Like you don't follow many people at all, except me, and probably just me and Akil, or you're probably two only followers.
Yeah. No, well, on Instagram, I think Twitter is a lot better for me personally. Twitter is a lot better than Instagram. You do get a lot more genuine people and guys or other traders, whether it's a man or woman, that actually want to help you and want to see you succeed along with them, right?
Way to be inclusive there with the man or woman comment.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever.
Right. Wait, everybody's welcome. Whoa.
I don't want to be canceled. But yeah, no, that's definitely, like, Twitter, I find, is a lot more positive. Like you do get a lot more positive feedback. But what I always was told by you, Austin, is when I joined Austin Akil in the beginning of 2020, and he always told me, just unfollow the people that are negative, that are going to hurt your trading career. They say you can't do it or something like that. And I followed that. That's for me personally what I did. I really only follow on Instagram the ASFX guys from ASFX, and maybe one or two other guys that are really positive. But on Twitter, you do get a lot more people that are positive, that aren't in your same trading community. But for me, I just follow people that are going to be positive towards me and actually interact on a intellectual level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's I do a lot of posting on social media. I don't spend a lot of time on social media at all, because most of it is negative. If I'm on there, I'm looking up like new uniforms for a team or something like that, or a meal or something like that. But yeah, I'm like you. I think it's funny. Twitter is probably the lowest of all the social media platforms as far as popularity goes. Yeah. But as a trader, I think it's the most beneficial. I think you get the least amount of trolls on there. You get people that are helpful. You can get, your news bits. If you have questions about stuff, you can get really good feedback. You don't get in many arguments or something like that. So yeah, I think you just need to ask yourself the question is this person beneficial to my, trading, personal life, whatever it may be, or am I wasting time getting into arguments or reading junk that's gonna, be toxic for my mind? And if it's the latter, just unfollow them. It's that simple.
Did you ever go through a point in your time, in your creation of content, where you're like, I really just wish I could just trade and not have to worry about any of this other shit?
Oh, dude, all the time. The time. See, here's a little known fact, right? I hate all this social media stuff.
Same, bro.
Like I hate.
But that's why I think we're good at it. That's why you're still doing it. Like, because we hate it. We know we got to do it. You got to play the game.
Yes.
But I still hate it.
Like it's part of the game. It's part of the business.
Right.
But I think that's a good point you brought up, because we don't really I don't want to say don't enjoy it, but it's something that if we didn't have to do it, if it wasn't beneficial, we wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
We don't really put any junk up there. Right. So we're putting stuff that is purposeful. We're putting stuff that is useful, that is helpful. And then we're going away, or we're engaging in good conversations. So yeah, I think it's all about what you make it. Use social media can be a horrible thing. And for many people it is. And like I said, there's a whole other podcast episode for that, but it can also be really good if you kind of know what you want to get out of it, because it allows you to go in, people don't understand this, right? These traders, right? They have access to so many great traders. Like I'm sure someone can DM you or comment on you and you're going to respond back. Like they have access to these mentors that younger traders can take advantage of. It's amazing.
It is
amazing.
the best time to learn how to trade, not just because of the market conditions, because like you said, if you find the right person and you can get into their inbox, you couldn't even do like, there's just so many good people out there now. And I think like you're making a great point that you just got to find the right ones and focus on them. I don't think you need quantity, you need quality when it comes to Twitter followers and interaction like that. So when you see all of these people come through the churn, Akil, and like, how many people come into trading and some do well for a little bit and then they still end up leaving. What do you think the number one reason traders fail is?
Themselves. So from a trading perspective, it's, self-inflicted wounds, self-sabotage, greed, fear, base mistakes, the fun stuff everyone's heard before. So you're not taking trades you're supposed to take, you're skipping on trades that you are supposed to take, you're moving stops, you're moving targets, you're, all that fun stuff. I think that's the main reason, those psychological battles that they can't get over. But aside from that, before we even get to that point, as we mentioned earlier, I think people just have a unrealistic expectation of what it takes to be a successful trader. Like, you can tell someone, man, I got this little strategy and I'm trying to get 20 pips out of the market, and I'm trying to do that whatever many times a month and blah, 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 blah. The first thing that people are going to say is like, 20 pips. Like, what am I gonna do with 20 pips?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And they can have this magical system. Like, you can give them this system, this strategy, and just like, don't do anything, don't F it up, just like trade it how it is, and it will print you money, and people will still find a way to mess it up, right? You'll take 20 pips from this trade and you'll give to someone, they'll try to take 30, and then they'll lose and they'll blame you. Like, people, it's ridiculous, but people will find a way to sabotage themselves because they want more. They don't understand the power of compounding, where it's like, hey, I got this $1,000 account, 20 pips isn't gonna, change my life. But as I grow that account, and when I'm trading $100,000 account, well, wait a minute, that's a whole different story now. Right now, I'm making some significant money, and it just gets bigger and bigger. I did this thing the other day where I talked about the power of compounding. It was like, let's say you make a 30% return a year, right? If you start with a $10,000, I think I started with a $6,000 account because it was like $10,000, and say we took a drawdown because you did dumb stuff, right? Do that math and look at where you'll be in the end of 20 years.
You would own the world
from it. Yeah.
Just look,
taking money from it, and it just compounds. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And just look at that. And that's not even counting adding extra money. Like, I always encourage traders, like, hey, once you have a system that works, like you said earlier, the main thing is, how can I flush as much money into this account as possible? It's like, pick up a side job, man. Like, go drive an Uber, go get some more hours.
Dude, and I had it's so funny you say that. I had a question in my inbox this morning, and it was like, I review my strategy, I wrote out my plan, I understand my entries, and I'm still chasing trades, or I'm feeling FOMO all the time. What's going on? And I said, I can almost bet you're not making enough money from your other streams of income, and it's stressing out your trading. You probably could be a great trader, but you're making it harder. Like you just said, self-sabotage. So that's a great answer as why most people fail. It's self-sabotage. Great answer. So now, why do you think, from your perspective, why do winning traders win?
Not self-sabotage. Discipline.
They sabotage everyone else except themselves. Exactly. That's why they're winners.
They do the opposite of what everyone else is doing.
That is it, though. I guess that is technically the answer.
Yeah. I think it's discipline and belief. I think the biggest difference is, like, I think all traders go through that period where we want more money, we're doing dumb stuff, we're sabotaging ourselves. And then at some point, we start to see kind of the big picture, the long game. And then once we start seeing results, we believe more in what we're doing. Like, wait a minute, if I just keep doing this, I'll make money, right? So here's a story how I got successful, right? I was trading and I had like, break even for the year, lost whatever money. And I went back and I did a full audit of my year, and I looked at all my trades. I did a kind of an A/B test where here was the trades I took, like, and how it played out in reality. Here were the trades if I actually would have followed my rules and did the stuff I was supposed to take. And I was like, oh man, like, I would have made a bunch of money if I just did what I was supposed to do. So I made a goal to myself. I said, hey, I'm making like 20 mistakes a month on average, right? I was wild and reckless. My goal is I'm going to make one less mistake each month. So it was January of whatever that year was. I'm like, okay, I made 19 mistakes in January. All right, February, my only goal was to make 19 or less mistakes. So I think I went down to like 15, and I slowly started chopping those mistakes. And it's funny because I had given up on being a successful trader, right? I was kind of blowing money. I was at the end of my nest egg. I was ready to start filling out resumes and going back to work because I ran out of money. I'd quit 3 jobs to kind of pursue trading because I thought I'd be successful rather quickly, and I wasn't. And I remember the funny story is I just started focusing on that process instead of the money. And I remember I got end of the month, I get a little broker thing, statement, whatever like that. And I'm used to seeing like the little parentheses, which means you lost money, and there's no parentheses. And I'm like, I email my broker. I'm like, hey man, I think you sent me the wrong statement because I don't make profit. They're like, oh, Mr. Stokes, this is your account number, right? I'm like, yeah. And I actually made money. And it was all because it's not that I was a bad trader. I was just doing bad things. So once I saw that, I'm like, oh, this is just follow the plan. I just stopped. The only reason I was losing money is because I was sabotaging myself. Yeah. That was the main reason. So once I saw that and I realized like, this is the fix, boom, I aggressively focused on it. Now it's the most important thing for me.
That's,
and
Akil, I need the drop in bombs thing, bro. That was good. What were you gonna say, James?
Love that.
You're the DJ, man. Where the bombs at?
I know. I need the sound effects, bro. I'm slacking. What were you gonna say, James?
No, I was gonna say, and how do you become aware to that? Is that through journaling, through review? How do you
how are you tracking those mistakes?
Yeah,
review. So it's and you got to be honest with yourself, but it's review. You know, once we all know when we make mistakes. We may not want to admit it, but we know when we do something dumb because it's black or white. So you write it down, you journal it. Hey, I entered too early, or I moved stops back, or I got scared and didn't enter, whatever it is. And, you highlight it in your journal, whatever like that, and then go back and kind of see what would the results look like if you didn't do that. And I think you'll be very surprised. I think you'll see a lot more profit.
And to bring it full circle to like the beginning of the conversation, if you look at athletics, I remember training without intention and then training with intention, where especially because we'll speak on track. I would go to this place. It was in Cherry Hill in New Jersey, and the guy would film me in slow motion, and we would break down the mechanics of how I was running and everything that was wrong with my form. And that made me faster. That was nothing else made me faster. Just going to the weight room, not going to do it. It's not going to do it. You have to be more precise like that, and being very honest with yourself to say what is wrong with this to then get better, So I think that if you maybe this is like something we all share in common is like the past in athletics where you sucked and then diagnosed it and got better makes us probably confident that we could do the same thing in trading. I think confidence from athletics translates into, well, look, I've overcome that before and now I can do it here again in trading, right?
100%. That's why I think you see a lot of people that either have done athletics or are fans of athletics, but specifically former athletes, they have the skills to be very really good at training. We're also disciplined. Right. We're disciplined. Coach tells us something, we got to be able to do it. We got to follow rules, and even self-discipline where it's like, man, I don't want to go out here and train or do this run in the off season, but I probably should because it's going to make me better. That gives us the ability to kind of do the small things in the now, knowing that it's going to prepare us for the future. So, I think sports and athletics, it plays a major role in trading success. And that's why you see a lot of back in the day, like Wall Street, when they used to poach people, they used to go to a lot of sports teams, right? Because they know they're getting people that, even if they don't know anything about trading, right? These people are disciplined. These people know how to follow directions, right? They have all those characteristics that are needed to be a good trader. They just got to teach them a strategy.
And that's what I think. It's like, there is not a natural trading ability, but there's characteristics that some people are born with and some people are not. The people that are born with some of those characteristics, you want to run with that because they can excel in trading. And I think to myself, like, because now you got me thinking about all my track days. Like I used to try to complain to my coach to get out of the 200, and he wouldn't let me do it, bro. Like he would not let me talk my way out of that race, and I wouldn't place. I wouldn't score points. I didn't understand why he made me do it. But now I think like when I look at that now as like trying to break my edge, break off of the plan. The plan was to have everybody run. I'm the third fastest. Even if the other guys are faster, you're going to run, you're going to do the plan no matter what, win or lose. It's almost like if an entry for your system presents, you take the trade. You can't try to know the outcome. I was trying to know the outcome of my race before I even ran it. And in that, I probably manifested more losses than wins for real. So now being able to reflect on that and apply that into my trading, I push self-belief so much onto traders because I think that's something that you've shown throughout your life is you've always believed in yourself that you could do a little bit more than that guy next to you. It's that Will Smith quote, like you put me on the treadmill next to somebody, I'm not getting off first, right? I feel like that's something you probably live by, right?
Yeah. And that's the competitive nature as well, is just,
I thought you were going to say, turn the camera around. It's just a picture of Will Smith. Right
I'm here. We've been racing for 3 days on this thing.
No, that's good. So listen, I got one more question for you, Akil. This has been great. What's next from you and from Tier 1? When's the book coming out? What's the next thing, bro? Come on, give us some inside scoop.
No book.
All right.
Jason was supposed to write a book. He's been trying to do that for 10 years. I don't know what happened. I can't find, I've started writing a few books. I can't find a book that I would want to read, right? There's so many.
You and me both, bro. I'll write a chapter, you write a chapter, and then we'll both give up.
So, we're just, trying to get better at helping traders. I think one of the biggest things we'd like to do, and I know you guys, you're doing this as well, with helping traders get funded. A long-term goal would be to start a prop firm. That would be fun. But at this point, I don't really have the energy to do the desire to do that, because one thing is it would take me away from the day-to-day coaching, right? Because now you got to worry about money. You got to make sure people aren't doing dumb stuff. It's more of a
whole other level of
management.
Dude, your hair would turn gray in a second.
Dude, yeah. Look, Santa Claus out here.
Right.
I did that when I managed money, right? Managing money sucked the fun out of trading. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But it's also fulfilling. So maybe one day in the future where, maybe I'm ready to move on from coaching and taking a different role, but still want to be involved, we can do that. But that's a long-term goal. Right now, it's helping more traders navigate that journey, teaching them what they need to teach, and preparing them to take the next step, whatever that may be.
I love it, bro. So for everybody listening, you can connect with Akil. I'm going to put his Twitter, his Instagram. I'm going to put the podcast. All of the links are going to be in the description. Make sure you go follow, make sure you subscribe. Akil, we appreciate you, bro. It's always good to catch up with you. It's always good to shoot it with somebody who's really in the game and working with other traders. And I hope that everybody listening took some value out of this. We make some jokes, we have some fun, but also I think that you share a ton of experience, bro. People are going to continue to look to you as somebody you're going to become one of them legends, bro. You and Jason, I feel like you guys have a couple of years on me. So all of my people like my age, we look up to you guys. You're still there, still consistent, still creating content, still bringing value. It's like that. Look at Mark Minaviri, look at Tom Cant, like the guys like that. Yeah. That's who you and I are looking to move towards. So it's like, keep doing what you're doing, brother. We all love it. I know everybody enjoys it. And if anybody has any comments, any questions, put them in the comments below, and we'll have Akil back on for round 2, and we'll dig back into it. But thank you again, Akil. James, thank you always, brother. And everybody listening, thank you.
We appreciate it. Yep.